This meeting is being recorded.
Hello, Pamela.
Hi.
Oh,
I'm good. How are you?
great. Thank you for coming on today. So, Pamela is an ex-Jehovah's Witness. She's also a member of my group called The Best Half, which this is the best half of our lives. We were told that being in the organization that it was the best life ever, but we beg to differ. We're both sort of in our, middle age and getting on with our life. And so that's what my women's group is all about, just us getting on and making the best of it. And so, Pamela, today what I want to do is I want to take us through your story, of being a witness, leaving the witnesses, and then also focus on all of the help that you give to ex-witnesses and the work and the healing work that you do. And so, welcome. And yeah, go ahead and tell us about you and about your story inside of the Jehovah's Witnesses.
Wow. That's kind of a loaded question. Well, briefly, I already did an interview that talked about all the details, but I will briefly just say that I was pretty much born into it. I always joke that I used to think, oh, it's such a good thing I was born into it because I never would say yes if someone knocked on my door or approached me on the street. Like, aren't I so blessed to be born into it? But that should have told me something to know that I would have never said yes had it been offered to me as, an adult or if I had a choice. But I was about 3 years old and my mom converted from Judaism to Jehovah's Witness. And it took my dad about 8 years and then he came around and I truly just feel like that's all I knew. And I was separated from family that was not witnesses. And so that was really hard for them. And now that we've reconnected 50 years later, not that we didn't have contact, we had contact, but it was limited. We had moved away from them. And so it's wonderful now because we're reunited. But, I did all the things. I did all the things right and excelled. And I can't say I was ever I'm a happy person at my core. But I can't say that gave me joy, even though they told you it was supposed to. But, I got baptized young. I got married young. And, that was a 26-year marriage to an abusive man. And I left about 10 years ago. I took my kids and left. My daughter, my pivotal moment was my daughter. She was about 16 at the time. And the night that we left, she said, I was hiding in her room crying, my lowest point. And she said, Mom, how long are you going to put up with this? And something just changed. I woke up and I thought, oh my gosh, my kids are watching me. I never want her as a woman to feel like she has to stay in a situation that she's unhappy or being mistreated. And so I said, we're leaving tonight. And so we left that night. And I have to say, even though I knew when I was driving away that I would never go back, it was a slow fade because you know how hard it is to break the tie. Yeah. So I was still trying to do the right thing and, trying to have some justice. And, how it is with the organization and how they, the whole patriarchy and the men never get in trouble. And so, it was a slow fade, but I'm so glad that I did it. I'm so glad that I broke free. And now that it's been, the last 5 years have been out. And so once I did an interview about my story, I had no idea that all these people that were still Jehovah's Witnesses would watch it. So for those of you watching, hey, I know you're watching.
Hello, everyone.
And it's a great life. And I think it really touched a nerve with especially my immediate family that I lost immediately when I did that. When I went public, I never spoke against God. I just spoke against the abuses and mistreatment of men in the organization. And that really touches a nerve when my dad's an elder, my brother's an elder, my nephew's an elder. I'm there, in the middle of it. And I spoke against this organization that they so love and are committed to. And so, I lost everything. So it was sort of, I had to grieve again because I lost them on a different level than being inactive, because then they labeled me apostate. And so, that's the worst thing you can be. I think it's the best thing you can be because it shows intelligence. It shows cognitive thinking. It shows that you're made a choice. And so I think that changing your viewpoint and your belief, which is truly the definition of what an apostate is great. It shows growth. So, I was a single mom for 10 years. My kids are now 21 and 27. And I'm very happy to report that they are happy, they are healthy, they are whole. They're doing all the things that those of us raised in the organization did not get to do. So my daughter, graduated from college. My son is getting to know and living with his girlfriend. And it's just so beautiful because there's no rush. And so there's just so many things there's so many good things. So I don't know. That's kind of my story. And here I am now.
I love it. I wanted to ask you, so when you left, your kids must have been like preteen, maybe?
Yeah, my son was 10 and my daughter was, I believe she was almost 16. I think she was about 15 and a half. Yeah.
Okay. And then when you said that you left,
I left my home. I always say that I lost everything and I had to build my entire infrastructure. So I left my beautiful home. I left my kid's dad. I left the organization. It's like when you take a move like that, they drop you like you have the worst disease in the world. So I just immediately left. That phone line for the J-Dubs, they all talk and they drop you and stop. They stop supporting you in every way, spiritually, emotionally. My clients, I lost my business. I lost all my clientele. I lost my customers. I lost everything. But you know what? It was worth it. It was so worth it, as hard as it was.
Wow. Oh, I don't know. I think it's like fading out on the last part of when we're talking, but
Oh.
Okay.
Oh, I hope it's recording okay.
Yeah, I think so.
All right.
So now here we're at the point of the story where you left. Okay, you're an apostate. You've done the unforgivable sin.
Right.
You left your husband, the business, the everything. It sounds like you just maybe just left and with was it like the clothes on your back? Because I
did. I joked, but it's true. So when I left, I had an old Honda Accord and I took a duffel bag and put a few things in it and we left. And then, he changed the locks. I couldn't get my stuff. It was a whole crazy time. Yeah. And I was not in the headspace, what a big deal that all is. And I wasn't in the headspace to fight for money or my things. And so I kind of let a lot of that go, which is probably my biggest regret, but you do what you have to do at the time. Yeah. And
survival. So what was it? Can you tell me a little bit more about your waking up and what that, I'm going to link your whole story. Okay. I've watched your whole interview for anybody that has more questions, but can you just sort of describe that moment of waking up?
I think it was incremental wake up, sort of so when I was driving away with my kids, and it was quite the scene before we left, but as I was leaving, their dad said, I think this was a wake up moment. He was yelling at me saying that I was bringing reproach upon Jehovah's name. And I thought, I am? And so I turned around and I put my finger in his face and told him, no, you are. You look at yourself because you just lost everything and you don't even know it. And so that was sort of a wake up. And then as I was driving away, I remember thinking, I'm never going back. Mm-hmm. because he always said, oh, you'll come back. You always do. And I thought, I'm never going back. And I now know that that meant to any of it. But I still tried. I went to a few meetings and I was very checked out, but I didn't know how to cut the whole thing. And I didn't want to lose my mom and my dad and my brother. And I had some close friends, but I had to. So waking up, I think what happened is when I left, I had a very good friend that was inactive and her mom, who ironically is still in, but she asked me if I would go to a domestic violence group meeting, like a support group with her. And I thought, domestic violence? That's not me. But I thought I loved her and trusted her. And so I went and my eyes were opened. I was being abused, not only by my religion, but my ex. And so I, read the information about the cycles of abuse, and I listened to all their stories, and the facilitator said, people come and they think because you don't have a bullet wound or a stabbing wound, that it's not abuse, but all of these things are abuse. And in the list of abuse, I was just kind of like, I mean, someone that's raised in that shelter and then you're reading this information that was never available to you. Of course, there's physical, sexual, emotional, religious abuse. There's financial abuse. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we're hitting every single one of these. And it was just like, wow, this is not right. And so I feel like that was a big wake up moment. And then I started doing some research. So like the Australian Commission, I started watching, I watched Leah Remy's special, like I watched the first few, and then I believe it's like episode 13 on season 3, something like that. And it was a panel of 12 ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. Mm-hmm. I can't even tell you how that shook me to my core, because I related to each of them, and each of them had a story that was tragic. And I thought, these people have such big hearts. They're my people. They're so beautiful and so, open and wonderful. And everything that we're taught about so-called apostates that leave was not true, because they were just normal, healthy, happy people. And I saw them in a different light. And so then, I started watching more documentaries and doing more research, but that was a big one. Mm-hmm. And I did watch things that were in general about cults, not just the Jehovah's Witnesses, because there were so many similarities. And I educated myself on it. And so I think that was like the big wake up moment.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. This is so cool. Yeah. I have to ask, okay, so now you've woken up, you've left your husband, the religion, your family, everything. Like, you were literally out there in the world, you and your 2 kids.
Yeah.
And then what? I want to hear about
and then you're just like, oh my gosh, I have to put food on the table. I have to provide a roof. It's all up to me. And it was sort of, I think we talked about this just before you hit record, that there's the grief and there's the joy. And so even back then, even though I see it so clearly now, the grief and the joy and managing it, back then, I literally would drive down the street and I'd be overcome with feelings of happiness. Like, oh my gosh, I'm free. I can listen to any music I want. I can watch any movies I want. I can educate myself on anything. I can watch anything I want. I can do anything I want. Mm-hmm. But then there's the losses. You've lost everything. And also just your self-esteem and your, how do I function? It's like you've been dropped on this planet, this alien planet, which is just normal life for everyone else. But I always joke, I'm 57 years old, and sometimes I'll say, I'm new here. Like, I'm new to politics, educate me, I'm new here. I've not celebrated for that many years, so I don't know what I'm doing. I'm winging it. I don't have any traditions. And so you make your own.
Yeah.
But what was the question? I think I got
Oh,
off.
it's okay. I love hearing all of this. I was just asking about how, you woke up and then it's like, okay, then how did you
Right,
get, I want people to know, like,
right.
what is
The
the path that
steps.
you took to get where you're at right now? Because tell us what you do for, for your business and
Right, right. I think that it all is intertwined. So I am a licensed esthetician. So self-care and providing self-care for people was what I did. And so I had to sort of rebuild my clientele because I had lost so many that were witnesses. So the ones that were not stuck with me, and then I had to build that. And so I'm glad that I had that opportunity to do that and sell product. I sell products that are non-toxic, and I also do aesthetic work. But I found that self-care became more important to me, not just to give it, but to receive it and to allow myself to enjoy it. And when I say self-care, that doesn't always mean a facial or a massage or something that costs a lot of money. There's so many little things we can do every day to care for ourselves. And I had to start being nice to myself.
yeah.
And
So,
that is self-care.
so can I interrupt you and ask
Sure.
you, what are some of those things, like if you could name a few or like your top
Right.
favorite ones that it's like you
Um,
don't trust anything, but this is
right.
really taking care of yourself.
It's super important to create your own self-care list, and it's going to look different for everyone. Like, I mean, I may say, soaking my feet in hot water and essential oils is so relaxing, and someone else might go, oh, that's awful. So you have to decide what works for you. And it's interesting because when I first had left, I went to a therapist, I went for counseling, and it was a horrible experience.
Mm.
I want to add this because I feel like people give up and say, oh, I'm not going to do it. I had told her that I had religious trauma and that doesn't work for me if she's religious. Well, she was very religious, and somehow she heard me wrong and was constantly talking about religious things. And it was kind of crazy. So bad experience, and I quit. And then I found one that resonated with me. And she asked me, what do you want out of this? Like, what is your goal with the getting therapy? And I was feeling so down. Like I just, that heavy, sad feeling, like a black cloud's following you. And I just said, I want to feel joy. I want to feel joy. And I want to get the old voices, including the organization's voice and my ex-husband's voice, out of my head. And I want to hear my own, which is my intuition. And like, I can't hear it. And so she had me start like a self-care. I look back and it really was a self-care list. She didn't call it that. She said, write down everything that brings you joy, everything you can think of on a piece of paper, anything and everything, whether that's like, I remember I should have grabbed the paper and read it to you guys, but like music was really important to me, playing good music, having a cup of tea, and putting it in your favorite glass, a cozy blanket, a bath, essential oils, taking a walk. It can be the most simple things. Sitting and breathing, which sounds so like what? But calming your mind and your body through breath and letting yourself hear the silence so you can tap into your own intuition, which is something we're not taught. And it's so uncomfortable at first. Because we're taught to fear our intuition when we should be embracing it. Mm-hmm. And so the list could go on and on. Like, I always think like I make every day a self-care day in some way, whether that's my shower or my bath or taking a walk or taking a few minutes to meditate, or I think it's being in the moment. So what self-care is to someone, I love hiking, I love nature, I love all of that. But if you're in a pinch and you're feeling stressed and anxious, you can refer to that list and pick something that's like appropriate for the time that you have. And so music was a big one. I remember when I first started with therapy, and she would say, when you're feeling down, like write down all the songs that you love and put those songs on. And then, kind of incorporating that in your everyday life.
Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna say with clients, with my clients, I like to remind them like just to be aware because sometimes we will do those things for ourselves, but we're not really like totally aware, like, oh, this is like
Yes.
loving myself. And when we can
Mhm.
remind ourselves, like, okay, this is what joy feels like, you know,
Yes.
coffee in a cup. This is joy, like just remembering it and not letting it just
Mhm.
pass us by. I love your idea of the joy list. This is so cool.
Yes.
Mhm.
I encourage everyone, it sounds silly, but get that piece of paper and then add to it as things come to you.
Oh, nice.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I think there's like a lag in the audio, but
Oh,
it's no,
it's
it's all
not on my end.
I don't oh, okay. Okay, good. So, okay, with you and being an esthetician and teaching people self-love. Now you're in Oregon, right?
I am. I'm in Southern Oregon in the Rogue Valley.
Yeah, yeah. So what has that done? Like just it sounds like this was a really pivotal moment for you with your therapist when she's like, "Hey, write this list of all the things that
Mhm.
bring you joy," because that was the thing that was missing out of your life. Like, how has that changed your life?
Well, I feel like it's a mind shift, if anything, but it's also a body shift because we hold grief in our body and we have to move that. We have to move through that. We have to move it out. And so I feel like taking a walk or a hike or dancing or doing yoga or whatever you do helps to move that out and sort of addressing it. We've got this grief that all of us that come out of that organization have, and we may have it for the rest of our lives. It's something that was a huge part of us for how many years. And so we've got this grief behind us, but then we have this joy in front of us. And like I think about stretching yourself, which way, and you got to let go of that in essence to grab onto the next thing. And I have this sign that says that it takes more strength. There's more strength in letting go than holding on. And
Mhm.
if we can sort of tap into that and let go of some of that, which is the anger and the hurt and the all of that, and let ourselves heal because there's so much in front of us. If we can grab it with open arms, I think that's very important.
Yeah.
And yeah, the grief is something that I think we deal with, but it doesn't have to control us or be who we are.
Yeah. And I liked what you had said earlier, too. And I just want to remind you, but you were talking about how we can hang on to two beliefs at one time. Like you were telling me, it is possible to feel joy and to feel grief.
Yeah, I have felt that more the last couple months because my mom has gone into an assisted living for Alzheimer's,
Um,
and it was sort of like they hadn't been talking to me, and then about a year ago, my dad called me out of the blue and said that she hadn't been put in the home yet, but she was getting worse, and that I should come see her before she doesn't recognize me. So I made that trip a year ago, December, and then it's been hard because so I've had some contact with them, and then my mom got put into the home, and I almost talk to her every day. And Elle, it's such a beautiful thing, even though it's sad, because all those barriers or whatever you want to call it, shields are down. And she's just this loving, kind, sweet person. She is not the woman that raised me.
wow.
But for me, it's like closure. It's everything I've ever wanted. She's so complimentary. Jehovah's Witness stuff doesn't really come up at all. And
Wow.
so I feel like I'm talking to her, even though I know she doesn't remember 5 minutes later, in just a very open and real way. And she's kind of the mom I always wanted.
Oh,
It's crazy. Yeah.
oh, that's so
But it shows you like what's under there when you take down their shield of the watchtower and the rules and all that. So now because she has Alzheimer's, she doesn't have to follow those rules.
yeah,
It's beautiful.
yeah. Oh, that is so sweet.
So there's the
Yeah,
grief of the loss and
yeah,
over again. And then there's the joy of my new life that I've rebuilt. And
yeah.
so Yeah, it's like I've been with my partner for 4 years. We just got engaged. I mean,
Oh,
it's a
congratulations.
very happy time, but you are managing the grief and the joy, and they can exist simultaneously. They can coexist.
Yeah,
You can be happy. I'm very happy, and I have moments that I'm very sad.
yeah,
So you can do both. You are allowed to feel both.
yeah. Do you know what I tell my clients that is?
What?
It's life. Like
Yes.
it's life. It's a little bit awesome. It's a little bit shitty.
Right.
It's a little
Yeah.
bit cool. It's a little bit annoying. It's a little in a little bit of this or that. But I think for Jehovah's Witnesses, we were always taught that we were just Jehovah's happy people. And so to be happy meant, we had to wear a smile and appear as though we're happy and joyful, but underneath we were just pushing down the just look like I don't want to be here at meeting. I don't want to go out in service and talk to these people. I don't,
Right.
all these things, like, yeah, I kind of want to celebrate my life and I can't even celebrate, my birthday. I can't do any holidays. Like, I don't know. Do you remember how dark winters used to be? Like, oh my gosh,
Yes.
so freaking depressing. And
Oh
so
gosh, yes.
this,
And it's in that you brought up that about birthdays and holidays.
I,
In that Leah Remy special, I don't know if you saw it, but there was one
it's
man,
been
I
a
can't
long
remember
time.
his name, but he said he never celebrated his birthday, obviously, because they didn't want you to have a day that honored you. You can only honor God, and that would take away from God. And so he's saying, like, of course, we didn't learn to love ourselves or to celebrate ourselves because
Yeah.
we're not supposed to do that. And I love doing that now.
It feels weird at first,
It does.
but now I'm kind of like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna make up for lost time.
Me
I'm gonna
too.
make the whole month of July my birthday month. You know what I
Your
mean?
birthday in July too?
Yeah,
That's
there's
mine.
no rules. Oh, really? What's your
Yeah.
birthday?
July 15th.
On the 22nd, 1 week after you. Aw,
Oh, we're
yeah.
cancers.
Yes. Oh, we're such kindred spirits. But yeah, I think there's something to like learning the joy. Like I love that that was the thing that you brought to your therapist.
Hmm.
I just want to have joy, like authentic joy, which it's so crazy that we just never knew how to do that. And if we were feeling a little bit too excited or a little bit too joyful, do you remember feeling like, oh my God, there's something wrong. I probably shouldn't be doing this. This is probably dangerous. This is probably
Right?
bad, right? And so
Yes.
we never had a real, true, authentic joy. We were just used to living in this low vibe sort of state of, I don't know, confusion,
And
frustration,
it's a facade.
and
I
it
feel like
is.
that life was such a facade. It was how everything looked. It's how
Yeah,
you looked. It's how your family looked. It's how you're perceived.
yeah,
They didn't know me. They didn't know what was in my heart and soul or how I felt. And if you did have a question or a doubt or a thought, yeah, exactly. You're not allowed to do that.
none of those, please.
And you're kind of like, oh, something's wrong with me because I'm not able to explain this prophecy or this thing or that. Like I must be really dumb, or I don't agree with this. This doesn't resonate. I don't want to follow this rule. This doesn't
Yeah,
make sense to me.
yeah, wow. Yeah, I totally relate. I mean, I used to always think that I was sort of a bad witness.
Right?
And the only reason why is because when I was in, I wasn't like super knowledgeable because really we didn't have a lot of knowledge. It's not like
Yeah.
we would read through the Bible. Like we didn't really take it as a whole. We just sort of, oh, there's this one and that one, and this one and that scripture, and
Right.
then that's just to prove this point, you know.
Yeah.
And speaking of joy, something else that I was taught when I came back to the religion in 2016, my Bible teacher, she taught me that joy meant Jehovah and then others and then yourself. And I was like so confused by that because I had been out for a while and then coming back and I was thinking, oh, maybe that's why my life is such a mess because
Right.
I didn't put Jehovah first. I didn't put others first. I just only thought about myself. And it took me so long. I really, really struggled with that. And then once I left, it was like, oh, yeah, she's wrong. They're wrong. They just make up this acronym, you know.
They lied to us on so many levels. But yes, that is what we were taught, that everyone, everyone else comes first. And we know how destructive that thinking is. If you don't take care of yourself with self-care, if you don't care for yourself, how can you care for anyone else?
Yeah.
If you don't fill your cup, how can you pour into someone else's? It's not, self-care is not selfish. Every person on the planet should be practicing that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like the way that you say it can be all sorts of little things. I have little things I like to do for myself too. I think it's good to talk about these little things that we can do. For me, I really love to journal. It's really helped me a lot to get all of my thoughts out on paper. And then I coach myself. I just dump it all on paper. I'll call it the brain dump.
Yes.
And then I read back through it, and then it's like, oh, really? You really think this? So interesting, brain, and then I read back through it, and then I can adjust myself. But if I don't really see it on paper, it's hard to adjust my thinking. And I love taking walks. Now it's become such a big part of my life where I feel like I'm a little bit agitated. I'm a little bit frustrated. It's like, I think, okay, where's my boots? I got to get on my boots. I got to go, I'm thinking. So now that's become like a natural reaction to working through problems, is really taking a walk in nature.
Yes.
It's been really nice. And what else would you say? You were talking about, oh, you like to put your feet in warm water.
I mean, there's so many things. Like, look at things that you should be doing anyway. Like, you brush your teeth, take a little extra time brushing your teeth and flossing, and doing it with a mindset not of, oh, I have to do this, to I get to do this, and this is for my health. And, washing your face, like, make it fun, put some music on or light a candle. Or I have these, like, those old tennis wristbands, I put those on so that I can wash my face and it doesn't run up my arms. And, it's just like doing those extra things. They don't cost a lot of money. You're going to do it anyway, but you're sort of making it a ritual of taking care of yourself, whatever that is. If you're making healthy foods, I love cooking and sharing healthy foods. And so if I plate it up for someone else, I'm going to make it look pretty, but do that for yourself. Plate it up in a pretty way and sit down and enjoy your food. Getting enough rest and feeding yourself, nutrient dense food, and taking walks, moving your body. These are basic, like, human rights.
Yeah.
We would put those last before because we had to do all these other things because they kept you so busy. And now we need to put those first. So, like, my workouts, the last week's been a little crazy with the holidays and all, but I schedule them into my scheduler as if they're an appointment with the client. I'm the client. And so these are the classes I take, and I'm not going to miss it. So if someone says, can you do that? Oh no, I have an appointment. Yeah. And even if it's my workout appointment, it's important because I know I feel better when I do that.
Aww.
And when it comes to things like that, it has to be fun. And so I had joined a new gym, and they gave you a free personal trainer for one session. And she asked what my goals were. And I said, to have fun. To have fun is my goal, because if you're not enjoying it and having fun, kind of like, what's the point?
Oh my gosh, I was just going to say the same thing. If we're not having fun, what's the freaking point?
Right. Exactly. So how can you make your everyday things fun? Because in our old life, it wasn't very fun. Like, there were fun times, like maybe if you went camping with a big group or something, but really going to meetings, going out in service, studying for them, like all the stuff we had to do was so boring. It was not fun. I dreaded it. And so how can you make your everyday, like if you commute to work, can you make that fun? Can you listen to a podcast? Can you listen to music that you like? Can you call a friend? Like, how can you make that commute fun and feed your soul? Taking a walk. I mean, nature is a huge part of my healing. I've spent a lot of times in the forest, a lot of hours, just taking it in and connecting with it, which is something I did not do when I was in the organization. And so nature has become my church.
I think very much the same. I love it too. I've been going to church kind of randomly in the last few months. I don't know why. I just feel called to do it. So I go. But it's sort of interesting because I just noticed because I was writing about this. I'm like, oh, I love going to church. I love feeling like, I don't know, like I'm doing something like maybe God there, you know. But then I've noticed myself that I'm very disconnected from the people. Like I'm kind of hoping that people don't look at me. I'm kind of hoping that they don't say hi to me, that we won't have a connection. Like I'm so resistant to that. And I'm like, why is that? Why is that? Oh, that's because that's coming from the old Jehovah's Witness thinking that these are worldly people and I should not be associating with them. And so I just recognized that and I thought to myself, that needs to really change because um, that is sort of like loving yourself is like really putting yourself out there and allowing other people to love you. What would you tell people? Like, do you have any advice for that if somebody is feeling like disconnected and they're not really sure how to go out and integrate themselves?
Yeah. You know how they say do it anyway?
Yes.
Do it scared, do it happy, do it grieving, just make the effort. We can't force ourselves before we're ready to feel a certain way, but sort of like if you keep doing it, it becomes more comfortable. I feel like it's a trust thing because we trusted that organization and we trusted the people in charge. And then we found out when the veil was lifted that they were not trustworthy, that they were lying to us, that they were covering up abuse. I mean, I could go on with a list of things, but I think it's a trust thing. So we have to like make sure that we're listening to our intuition and we're kind of building that trust. So if someone's feeling like you said, you went to church and you felt disconnected, I don't know, maybe just taking that step. What can I do? Not in a fake way, but just maybe talk to one person, just see how that feels.
Yeah.
I think checking in with ourselves to say, why do I feel this way?
Yeah.
Why am I hesitant to get involved with these people?
Yeah. Do you know what it is? Do you know this is what it is for me. I feel like if I could trust myself, it's a reminder I need to trust myself more. Like what is wrong with me that I think that I couldn't, it would be too much and I could say, oh, okay, well that's fine and kind of back away. But I think I do believe this, the more that we can trust ourselves, the more we can trust other people. So I'm glad that you said that. It probably is a trust thing. And I think that I should trust myself more.
You
And
should.
I can say,
And your intuition.
yeah,
If you're in a group of people, even if whether that's within a couple minutes or it takes a little time, if they're for you or not. And you get to choose if you're going to continue that relationship or not. If it's not serving you, if you're not comfortable, you can easily just disengage and not go down that path. It's like we have a choice. Whereas we were taught you had to be friends with everyone. You had to have everyone in your car group. You have to have everyone to your home. I had pedophiles in my car with my children because I thought you had to do that. And you don't. Yeah. You do not have to do anything. You get to choose. So if you're, hanging out with some people and it's not serving you, you can find some new people.
How cool.
It's pretty simple.
Yeah. But it is like a reprogramming.
It is a reprogramming.
Like, oh yeah, thanks for the reminder,
And it takes years for that reprogramming. And there's some things that are so deeply ingrained that it takes a while. So I think like when it comes to I think holidays were hard for me at first. They're not now. I wish I had traditions, like people have traditions, but I've been making my own for the last few years.
Aww.
And it doesn't always have to be the same.
Yeah. What are some of your traditions, if you could share?
Well, my daughter and I love books. We love reading, as you know. And there is a Scandinavian tradition, and I'm probably going to say the name wrong, but it's like Yola Book a Flood, and it means a flood of books. And so it's on Christmas Eve, and I think it's in Iceland, and they exchange books and chocolate and they read and either drink hot chocolate or eat chocolate. It's like a tradition the night before. And I think it's so beautiful because it brings you together. And we're not always together on holidays, but we do exchange books. And I have a tree that's like a birch tree that I love. So it's sort of not, I'm not killing a tree to bring it in. And I can use it for other holidays. I mean, I have it right here. I'll show you this cute little tree. Let's see if I can get it over there. See? And I just took all the Christmas stuff out, and I'm going to put Valentine's stuff on it. So I ordered some hearts to put on it so that I can just have like this little festive area. Yeah. I don't go crazy. I'm pretty simple. Yeah. And then for my fiance and I a couple of years ago bought stockings, just white, simple stockings, because I thought, well, that can be our, I think last year I bought it. So this is the second year we've used them. Like that's our tradition for the two of us, and something we can like carry forward, just something simple. And then I got one for my daughter because she was visiting, and I said, let me keep it here for you. And then when you visit, you can be part of it. And when you're not visiting, I can fill it and give it to you for the next time. So I think just things like that.
That's so thoughtful and so sweet. And I didn't hear anything demonic there or satanic.
I get my cauldron out.
Oh my gosh.
You know what? There's so many things that we were taught that were, you know, pagan. What is pagan? Pagan's like, what does that word even mean? My boyfriend and I talk about this all the time. Like a word that was created by like Christians for anything that's not Christian.
It's kind of like, we can't explain it. Oh, it must be pagan.
It must be pagan. Yeah. Oh, that's pagan. That's demonic.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've had no negative experiences with the demons because of my tree or because of but I do really like, I think that it's not so much the traditions as the feeling it creates. And I think that's what we're all looking for, is like that feeling of family, whatever that looks like for you, close friends and family. Because we did have a level of that in the organization. We had a lot of friends. Yeah. And you miss that. Yeah, friends. So the group is smaller now, but it's the quality is bigger.
Yes. Yeah,
for sure.
I love that. And I love that we get to pick and choose, not just like, oh, you live here, so here's your congregation. Love them.
Mm-hmm.
All of them, no matter what.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's it's cool to be able to pick and choose who we want in our life, you know?
Yes.
This is beautiful.
The other thing that's really cool is that you can help, like you have friends and family, whatever your family of choice, I call it, and you can love them and support them through any decision they make, even if you don't I know, even if you don't agree with it. Like, I don't have to, that might not be the decision I make, but I don't have to stop talking to you because you've taken that course. Like, I can still love you through it. And it's so beautiful to just be able to not judge someone, but love them and support them and help them.
Yeah. Not try to change them, right? Just like
not hate them because of something, one thing. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a totally different thing.
Right.
So today is the 1st of January. You know, it's
the 31st.
Oh, sorry, of December. Oh my God.
I know what you meant.
I'm like so done with 2024. I'm like,
I know you are. We have a few more hours.
This is how bad ex-Jehovah's Witnesses are at holidays. Anyways.
Yes. I don't even know the day.
I know sometimes I forget to if somebody's like Merry, and they said Merry Christmas, I'm like, okay, thanks. And it's just like, oh my gosh, like, what am I thinking? Okay, so it is December 31st.
Yes. 2024.
Tomorrow will be January 1st. So do you have any tips or tricks, let's say for anybody that is like inside of the organization thinking about leaving? Do you have anything for them?
Well, I mean, follow your intuition.
What's that?
Your inner voice. Like if you're on the fence, you've made a decision. You're just afraid to enact it, or what do you call it? Like actually do it. Like you've made a decision in your heart and mind. If you're on the fence,
Yeah.
you're seeing some things that aren't right. And so what would it take to take that step to leave? What would that look like? And you do have to have somewhat of a plan
Mhm.
and what makes sense for you. If you just, rip the Band-Aid off and leave, if a lot of people like I'm not disfellowshipped. I was never,
Same.
I just decided that I will never talk to those men in charge again. You will never get me in a room with them. I will never talk to them. You don't have to follow those rules anymore. And so I'm not under their jurisdiction. So that's a whole nother story, but I really, they were after me about 6 months ago, and I had to write a cease and desist letter so that they would just leave me alone, because I don't go by those rules anymore. But if you want to leave, you kind of have to be ready for some resistance and some persecution. But that passes. It will pass, but you have to be strong. So get a support system to do that. I know, like in the best half group, it's a smaller group, but there's a support system. And in your other Facebook group, I just want to heal and move on.
Yeah, I'll link both of them below.
Great.
So, yeah,
And it's important to not just trauma bond. I mean, that's part of it. It's like, oh yeah, that happened to me and that happened to me. And there is some benefit in knowing you're not the only one. But what I love about your group, because I've been in several, so I'm just going to put a little plug in for you, because the reason is because there's more positive people in the group that really want to not live in that past, but they want to embrace the best part of life, which is from now forward. And so that's the mindset that, like, I know you and I are always looking for. And so you want to surround yourself not with negative ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, but positive ex-Jehovah's Witnesses that are, this is how we move forward. Yes, we honor what happened to you and we grieve with you. And now what? And then what?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. And that is my whole intention. When I first started my free group, it's been like over a year ago, was just like, okay, like we know that we were traumatized. Now what?
Right.
And not to discount anybody's experience. Like we've all been through hell.
Right. Right.
It's like we could stay in hell.
Yes.
Live in hell on earth.
Exactly.
For the rest of our days. Or we could say, okay, yeah, that happened. I feel seen. I feel validated. And now what? Let's go. Because for me as a life coach, that's what it's all about. Like therapy, you're going to be able to untangle some things and figure out why that happened. But then life coaching is like, okay, what's next? Let's go. We only got half of our life left,
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel. Like I don't want to stay in that mode of complaining. And I really don't care what the Watchtower is doing or what their new stuff is. I mean, you hear it through the grapevine, but I don't go looking for it. And it's like, I don't care what they're doing. I want to focus on what I'm doing and all this life has to offer.
Yeah, I was thinking when we were talking about, if somebody is still inside of the organization and then they're thinking about leaving, okay, so this is what I think, like setting up a support group, you're so right about that. And whether it's a therapist or group therapy, coaching, group coaching, a paid membership to a group or a free group, like there's so many options.
Right.
And I think another really big part beyond that too is part of setting things up is like having enough money set aside that will give you that freedom. You may not ever get your family back, but this is what I did. I just moved far, far away.
Yeah.
And so then people don't really know what you're doing. And
they don't.
Still, because it's very tricky to cut off your whole family. And so when I had left, I had left probably 3 or 4 different times, but over the span of my life. But I always noticed that when I had enough money saved up and I could just relocate and my life, that I didn't have to, nobody had to know everything and cut me off. So that kind of helped lessen the blow a little bit. And so in this year of 2025, thinking about saving money, I think is really important for anybody inside too. Thinking about how you want to set up your support system, but you have to be able to support yourself.
Yes. And so that sort of leads into if you are a married woman in the organization and you're trying to leave, sometimes you feel trapped because of money. Like you feel like, oh, I can't, what if you have money? I don't want to give up this lifestyle. And if you don't have money, you're like, I don't have any money to leave and start my life over. And so what you have to do is make your own money. And so that you can have those choices. And we weren't really taught to save money or to be independent. And so, I mean, I just kind of did it and figured it out. But if you could, make a plan to do that, then you can. I moved 3 hours away from where my kid's dad was. And that was the best thing I did because the town was too small for both of us. And so even though it was still really hard and I felt like I was being followed and watched all the time up until fairly recently, move away. I think that's one of the best things that you can do to start over.
Yeah. So somebody could start, this is what I'm thinking, like the process of leaving the witnesses. Sometimes it's the long game. It's not just one day you wake up and you're gone.
Right.
There's a whole process. And so if somebody is thinking about really making 2025 the year where they really, this is the goal. I am going to leave the witnesses, I hope that they would like reach out to people in the group. Also in my group, in the healing group, people can make comments that are anonymous.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of groups have that, but I allow people to do that because I know that there's going to be some people that come in that they're going to want to just remain, behind the scenes and really not have, even it's a super private group, but even then asking anonymously, what should I do? Or,
I think being anonymous is a great thing at first because you're scared. And when I did my interview, which was about 3 years ago, like I just was a little bit naive because I didn't realize like when you put stuff on the internet, how many people see it. But this is why I did it. My intention was for myself to just sort of like come out and be like, this is what I want. And I want to help other people. And that was the second reason, is to help others that could relate to my story in some way. So even if it helped one person, and really to uncover the shame around abuse. And speaking of abuses, like that organization wants to cover it up, all of the abuses. We don't. We want to expose it and talk about it. And that's very uncomfortable for some people. And it's interesting because my family that is in wanted express that, like, why did you do that? Like, basically, I said, I told my story, I spoke my truth. And basically, they want you to be quiet and not expose it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I will never be quiet. I will never stop talking about abuses and injustices and the patriarchy and all of that. I will never stop talking about that, whether that's from the organization or in the general public. I will always be a voice for that. And so why would you ask someone to be quiet? And if something gets under my skin, it's when someone wants you to be quiet, because I feel like I was told to be quiet my whole life.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly the same for me too. I feel everything you said. I'm like, amen, sister. Yes.
And I think that just squelches your intuition. It squelches your intelligence. It squelches your heart, because you're just like kind of told that everything you're thinking and feeling is wrong if you have to be quiet about it.
Yeah. And feeling very lonely too.
Yes.
Alone, like, oh, maybe it's just me and maybe I'm the only one feeling like this. But that's the coolest thing about having groups and meeting friends outside of the organization that used to be witnesses. Like, oh my gosh, me too, me too, me too, me too. And then after that, it's like, okay, let's move on. All right, now we know that we're not crazy, and now we can move on with our life.
Which brings up the idea of when you leave, it is super, super, super hard, like a death. And you have to learn to be okay being alone. We were always surrounded by people all the time.
Yep.
But we have to get comfortable being alone. And I really took time after I left to spend time with myself and get to know myself and to be comfortable being alone, whether that's, going and get something to eat alone or taking a hike alone or just meditating alone. Whatever you're doing alone, you have to become like your own best friend. Like, I'm fine being alone. I like being alone. And it's like I'm not uncomfortable being alone. And so I feel like that's a transition when you leave the organization to take some time. I have many ex-Jehovah's Witnesses that sort of jump right into like dating a lot or right into social things. Like they don't take that time to heal. I think there needs to be a pause before you jump into too many things. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, because Pamela, so what we're talking about here on my channel. So I just have recently gone through a breakup. And I was reading this book that was talking about narcissistic abuse. The reason I bought the book was to compare the narcissistic religion to an actual relationship, and see how it's just like a narcissistic relationship. Well, turns out, yep, I was in a narcissistic relationship. And when I left the organization in 2020 is when I left, 2019 is when I woke up completely. And I was so ready. I'm like, okay, that whole, almost a year that I had woken up and then leaving, I thought, oh, I'm going to do so much work on myself. I'm going to, I'm going to be so ready. I'm so ready to bring in my partner. But what happened is that it was way too fast. I didn't take the time to be alone, even though I was alone for 4 years, single and celibate. It wasn't enough time because I had not left the religion and then spent what they tell you is to spend a whole year on your own. So for me, 2025 is going to be my year of me just thriving alone, really doing the extra work on myself because it is when we're in that transition, that's when we can easily fall into a narcissistic relationship, which I've seen with so many clients.
Yes.
And it's very unique to ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. So anybody out there, if you're thinking about, leaving, take the time now to be with yourself. So that when you really leave, you can spend that whole year alone and really figuring out who you are, who you want to be with, what do you like, what don't you like, and yeah, that's where I'm at.
And a little caveat is to beware of other people that aren't healed because
Are you talking about ex-witnesses or just in general?
yes, well,
Okay.
in general, but yes, that because I made that mistake as well, thinking like you have this in common, so this would be a good match or this would be a good thing, and it's not always a good thing because they're not healed. And so yeah, that narcissistic, addictive type personality can be in or out of the organization. And so what we think might be comforting could actually not be good for us. So
Yeah.
just like really being aware. And I mean, we're so naive when we come out. And so we trust people sometimes. I mean, we don't trust and then we trust, like the
I
wrong
know, right?
It's a weird combo. Like,
It
I'm not going to
is.
trust any of these people that are in this group that I've chosen to join, but I'm going to trust this man who came out of the woodwork saying, he's the next. I don't know. It's just so weird. But I think that being able to talk about it and like we can make mistakes, which we have all done. The point is that we get back on our feet. And I think taking that time for self-care, and like you said, you're taking a year to heal and to like be alone is important. I've had that feedback from other people. I sort of was forced to take it because I had 2 kids that were looking at me and I didn't want to like have men coming in and out of their life. And so I just really concentrated on raising my kids and like getting better, getting stronger in my business and my personal goals. So I highly recommend taking time to do that and not just jumping into a different scene.
Yeah. Aw, I love this. Well, Pamela, if people want to hear more about you, I will link that
Okay.
it down below. And then also your business. What's your business called and where are you located? If you want to share.
I'm in Southern Oregon and it's Pamela Lin Aesthetics. And so I do several things. Obviously I do facials and foot treatments and body treatments and all. I'm very into like the holistic side of it and like a somatic release because I feel like our nervous systems in general just really need that regulation, and teaching people how to regulate their nervous system is part of what I do. But I wanted to say that if someone wants help with creating their self-care list or having a self-care routine, I also do that, and I can do that, via Zoom. And so, yeah, reach out to me. And I mean, it's part of that whole healing process. It goes hand in hand with coaching and with therapy, and just sort of having that, like, where do I start? Because there's a lot of people, like, it sort of comes naturally to me because it's what I do as a business. It's what I've always done. I was a massage therapist and then an esthetician. So it just comes very naturally, that whole health and beauty thing. But for some people, it is very foreign. And so it's fun to help teach people how to incorporate that for healing, self-care for healing.
It's one of the biggest mind-boggling things that I've heard from so many people as they leave the witnesses, and it was for myself too. Like, wait a second, I'm supposed to put myself first, and like, what? Like, how do you even do that? Like, I was
Right?
so confused for so long,
Yeah.
and I see it so many times, and like with clients and just in the groups and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
it's such a cool thing if you think about it. Like this problem of not knowing how to really take great care of ourselves. What a beautiful thing. What a beautiful gift that we've been given. Of like, if this is a big problem, like how cool to explore that and to really figure it out and to solve that problem for ourselves. It's so exciting.
Yes. And once you do and you start establishing that and looking at things differently, like if you're looking at your daily routines of self-care, how can you incorporate self-care into your daily routines, not waiting till you're burned out to get a facial or a massage or take a walk or have a cup of tea. Like you're going to heal as you're living. And I think that's important because we don't want to shut down and not be able to function. And I had my days that I'm not going to lie, I had my days that I was very down, or I stayed in bed, or I was so sad I just go to work and come home and crash. And be prepared for that when you leave, but it will get better. You will get through it.
Yeah. Yep. So good. Yeah, I love how you're saying that incorporate it into your daily routine now,
Right.
instead of
Yes.
waiting until it's like, oh my gosh, all hell's broken loose and I don't know what to do and now I need to take care of myself. Like, do it now. Even if you're in the organization, take that time to journal. Take the time that even that, that cup of tea at night, like recognize it, like, oh, this is taking care of myself. I think that's so important.
My business partner and I talk about this all the time and teaching mostly women, but men too, how to regulate their nervous system and how to take care of yourself. My mind just went blank. It happens at 57 more often than I'd like to.
You look so good, girl.
Thank you.
Oh,
Maybe I should.
it.
It'll come back to me. Give me a minute.
Okay. It's okay.
Oh, so just simple things that we have to relearn. So like feeding yourself. When you're hungry, feed yourself. When you're thirsty, drink. When you have to go to the bathroom, go. When you need to move your body, take a walk. If you're feeling anxious, breathe. These things are so simple. If you're tired, rest. And those things were like shameful before. And it's not just ex-Jehovah's Witnesses that feel that, just different personality types or how you're raised. Like you have to always be busy or doing something. And I think society in general, like, burnout is like, the harder you're working and the more exhausted you are, that's like, here's a gold prize for that. And it's not, there is no prize. I've just been thinking a lot about that. Like, and I don't know, my age group and women raised in that whole diet mentality and depriving yourself. It's like, no, when you're hungry, eat, feed and nourish your body. When you're thirsty, drink. I mean, it's like those simple things that when you're feeling down or anxious that you go, have I drank water today? It sounds so silly, but like, stop. Have I drank enough water? Am I hydrated? Have I eaten something nutritious? Am I tired? Do I need to rest?
Yeah.
You know, ask yourself these things because they're simple things that we deprived ourselves of for so long.
Yeah. Yeah. I think of it kind of like my own best mom. Like,
Mhm.
okay, like if I was my own best mom, I'd probably say, hey, probably stop with the chips.
Right?
Honey, let's put that
Yeah.
bag away. Have you gotten outside to get some fresh air? You know?
Right?
Yeah, no, do you want to get together with your friends this
Mhm.
weekend? You know, things like that. If
Yeah.
I had my own best mom, what would she say? So
I
sometimes I
like
can answer the questions for myself, like, oh, okay, yeah, let's choose this delicious salad over, you know,
that.
that sort of thing. So that really helps me just thinking about that.
One of my best friends that also left the organization, Avi Green,
Yay!
she
Oh
is,
my
you
gosh, I
know,
love her.
Avi? Yeah, she's amazing. And so
Okay.
she has a whole, farm to table business with food. And so she calls it, and she has a book out, A Plate of Self-Care.
Yes.
Love that. I always quote her when I'm teaching self-care and educating on it
Yes.
because it is, you are taking care of yourself with what you're feeding yourself. And
Yeah.
so
So
it's
I
so
love
important.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh, I
great.
think that's so funny that she came up because I'm like, I love her too.
Yeah, she's awesome.
So on Instagram, she is a plate of self-care.
Yes.
And yeah, she's in Southern California and she does like meal prep and delivery because I
Yes.
was like, ooh, that sounds cool, but
Yes.
Washington.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Aw. Well, it was so good talking to you, Pamela. Do you have any words of wisdom at all before we go? Anything that
Well,
would
I was thinking, do you want to do that 3-minute meditation to
yes.
exit 24 and enter 25?
Oh my gosh, you just gave me the chills. Yes.
It's just about 4 minutes. And
Okay.
I know that where we come from, the uh, the idea of meditation is like, oh my God, your head's going to spin and demons are going to enter. But that's really not the case. It's simple. You're just calming your nervous system, you're breathing, you're allowing calmness. And so I have like a heart opening New Year meditation.
Okay, so we can think of it. This is how I think of meditation as like getting still.
Yes.
Like you're putting yourself in a little bit of a timeout just to think about things for a little bit. There's
And it
something
can be
coming out.
really hard at first. Like I would be antsy. I couldn't, like, they're just, now I can sit for a longer period of time, but like start with 2 minutes or 1 minute if you can't do longer. But okay. Do you want me to start? All right. So get comfy, find a comfy spot. You can lay down and do it. I'm sitting on a pillow with my legs crossed, and I just invite you to find a very comfortable position and feeling like the ground beneath you, the whatever's supporting you, if it's the floor or the chair, if you're standing, if it's your feet, feeling the earth beneath you, and just rest your hands like gently in your lap. And I invite you to close your eyes. This changes everything. If you're comfortable closing your eyes, if not, soften your gaze, whatever is comfortable for you. It doesn't have to be exact. There's no right or wrong. And then bring your attention to your breath and take a slow, deep breath. So in through your nose, allowing the air to fill your lungs, and then exhale gently through your mouth. I like to put a hand on my heart and one on my stomach so I can feel the breath going in and out. And then let your breath become soft and natural, finding its own steady rhythm. Make sure that you're not forcing it or holding it, just whatever feels natural for you. And because we're ending this year with this, as we breathe, let's exhale and release all that 2024 had in store for us, whatever was going on, the good, the bad, just sort of releasing all of that. And then as we inhale, let's inhale with an open heart, with an open mind, and an open soul. Breathing in 2025 and all that is possible. And knowing that what is for you awaits you. And as you breathe, bring that awareness to your heart center, right in the middle of your chest. And imagine a gentle, warm light there that's soft and welcoming, like the first morning light. And that light holds nothing but compassion, acceptance, and warmth for you. And with each breath, feel this light growing just a little bit brighter and expanding. It's here to support you. You don't need to force anything or change anything. Again, I invite you to allow that warmth to open your heart. One breath at a time. If any invasive thoughts arise, it's okay. They'll be there. Just breathe into it and allow it to soften. And trust that this heart space is a safe place, created just for you. Whatever you're carrying, doubts, old fears, hopes, and dreams, know that you are welcome in this space exactly as you are. And then with each breath, let that warmth you feel move outward from your heart, reaching every part of your body. Let it flow through you, bringing a sense of ease and peace to your shoulders, to your arms, to your belly, to your legs. Notice how this light and this warmth helps you feel grounded and safe. And as we begin to close this meditation, take a moment to acknowledge the journey you're on. You are here, you are growing, you are learning, and you are moving forward at your own pace. Feel the strength in that and know that your heart will guide you on this path. I invite you to take one final breath in, filling up with that warmth and peace, and gently exhale, allowing yourself to open your eyes and carrying the feeling of openness and acceptance with you as you go forward into 2025. Mm-hmm.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Oh, thank you so much. That was so beautiful.
Thank you.
That was so beautiful. I noticed how I just wanted to grip my heart with two hands.
Right.
I was like doubly protecting myself or something.
Oh, it's beautiful. Good. You need it. You need that right now. And that's just like you can find strength in that.
Oh, thank you, Pamela.
You're welcome. It was fun.
So beautiful. I appreciate you so much.
I appreciate you and what you're doing and how you're helping so many people. And every time I do this, like an interview or a meditation or these different groups, I think you and I are aligned in that it's always like, who can we help to get where we're at? Not that we've arrived, because you're always evolving,
Yeah.
but a lot of people want to be where we're at, but you have to do the work to get there. So I encourage everyone to do the work to get there.
And
It's fun.
by the work, the way, see, because I never really understood what the heck that even means.
Mhm.
But by the work, I believe what you're saying and is, do a meditation. For
Yes.
me, I do nightly meditations that last throughout the whole night. So I'll do like a self-love meditation from
Mhm.
YouTube. There's a guy on here, his name is Doxy.
Mhm.
Doxy Meditations, that he does a 30-day self-love guided meditation where
Oh.
plug your phone in, you turn it on, and it will play for 8 hours. And I'll tell you what, like that really worked well for me. I felt like I was falling in love with myself and really loving,
Mhm.
appreciating myself. That's the work, even when you're sleeping, right? Or it could be taking this, few minutes in the morning to journal and to really get your thoughts on paper. Or if you're reading any self-help books and they tell you, hey, try this practice, do the practice, because
Mhm.
you can't just read through things and not do.
Right.
It's like doing the things instead of thinking about it. We're just
Yes.
doing a little bit
Mhm.
of work.
Yeah, I agree. The work, yes. And some of that work is just, like you say, being still and listening to your intuition. Some of it's writing things out. And I mean, I've written things out and burned them, and I've done all that stuff, and I continue to do it. But it's, yes, the work. If you're confused on the work, we're happy to tell you what that is.
Yeah, I know some of these terms are like it
Mhm.
should it. I don't know
Yeah.
if it should or could, but it's sort of foreign, right?
Right. Yeah.
So yes, thanks for being here, everyone. And Pamela and I are wishing you a freaking fabulous 2025.
Yes. Happy New Year.
Going to be amazing, whatever it is that you do. And like she just said, we're always learning, growing,
Mhm.
evolving. We are never going to arrive. This is just part of the journey. So
Yes.
for being here.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.